Okay, welcome back to my class. So in the previous class, we have already discussed sources of data collection, and we have seen there are two sources of the collection of data. One is the primary sources, another one is the secondary sources of collection of data. So today we will discuss mode of data collection. It means mode of primary data collection. So let us see, there are basically three ways of collecting data. The first one is personal interview method. Second one is mailing questionnaire or mailing survey. And third one is telephonic interview method. So we'll discuss one by one. So let us see. I told you there are three basic ways of collecting data. First one is personal interview. Personal interview. So this is the first method. First one is the personal interview method. Second one is mailing questionnaire. This is also called mailing questionnaire or mailing survey also. Surveys. And the third one is telephonic interviews. So let us see, we'll discuss one by one. The first one is a personal interview. So this is personal interview method. Under this method, investigator, let us see, investigator is also known as researcher. So investigator or researcher conduct face-to-face interview with the respondent. So face-to-face interviews are conducted by the, we can say, conducted means investigator or researcher conduct face-to-face interview with the respondent. Here, personal contact is made between. So personal contact is made between the respondent and the interviewer. So personal contact is made in between the we can say respondent and the interviewer, and this method is suitable where there is the access of means all the people. There is the access of all the people, means where the researcher or investigator can reach to all the people. So this method, let us see, is very means useful method where we want to get the accurate information, and these personal interview methods are generally used by, sometimes it is used by the government agencies. Sometimes we are knowing that population census, they are using this method, personal interview method, in order to gather the information about the demographic situation of our country, in order to know the increase and decrease of our population. Apart from this, let us say this method is correspondent or television means reporters. So television reporters, they used to use this face-to-face interview method or this personal interview method in order to gather certain type of information. So this method is a method in which any type of misunderstanding and misinterpretation can be clarified, because this both the respondent as well as the investigator, they sit face to face, they are sitting together and they are one this respondent is giving the answer and researcher or investigator is asking the question. So this method is having we can say certain advantages, and this method is also having certain disadvantages also. Let us see what are the advantages or what are the merits of these personal interview methods. First one is highest response rate. So response rate is very highest because this respondent cannot avoid to answer the question. So the rate of response is very high. So almost 100% response rate is there. Allows use of all type of questions. So this method allows to ask all type of question. Let us say this close-ended question or open-ended question, or let us say question in terms of yes or no or multiple answer question. Any type of question can be asked under this method. Better for using open-ended question. Open-ended question, let us see, this is very useful for asking the bit means open-ended question. You take the example. Suppose if you want to know that that what is your opinion for the means implementation of globalization in our country. So people will give their own opinion. So the investigator will just write down the opinion given by the respondent. So these open-ended questions can also be asked by this method. Allows clarification of ambiguous question. If any question having giving different meaning or more than one meaning, or the question which are not clear to the respondent, then certainly let us see this researcher or investigator or enumerator can clarify that question. So this is the merit. These are the merits of this method. On the other side, there are certain demerits also. And first important demerit is the most expensive method. So it is expensive method because this takes it more time taking. So it takes time. It is time consuming method, and this is expensive method. Possibility of influencing respondent. Sometimes what happens, the respondent can be influenced by the investigator or by the enumerator. So the chances are there that the investigator can influence the respondent and can ask them, can accept the answer of their own desire. So this method is having certain advantages and disadvantages. And next one we will discuss this mailing questionnaire. So let us see this method. Under this method, questionnaires are mailed to the informants with a request to complete and return it by a given date. An assurance is given that the answers will be kept confidential. So mailing questionnaire is a method through which the prepared questionnaires or the format of questions are sent to the respondent, sent to the we can say sent to the informant with certain request, with certain instruction, and that you fill up the form and return it back on the address given below. And let us see, this is the method under which that information could be collected even from the remote area. So this method we can say is suitable where that the people cannot reach, the reporter cannot reach, the researcher cannot read, the suppose investigator cannot reach. So this method is very suitable. So this method is also having some certain advantages and disadvantages. Let us see what are the advantages of this method. Least expensive. This method is least expensive method because here the format of questions are sent through the mail, sent through the postal services, sent through the post. We all are knowing that postal services are available in each and every villages. Each and every villages of our country are covered under the postal services. and let us see, the letter can be sent any part of our country. So format of questions are sent through the postal services. Here the, let us see, these investigators are not required to reach to the individual's house or to meet to the individuals. Here the format of questions are sent. So this, let us see, is least expensive method, only method to reach a remote area. So I told you this is the method through which the information could be collected from the remote area. No influence on respondent. Here let us see this, there is no face-to-face interview, and that is why, let us see, this investigator or researcher cannot influence to the respondent. Here the respondent is free to think and respond according to his own understanding, according to his own choice, best for sensitive question. There are certain questions which could not be asked and which could not be let us see, answered in front of investigator, in front of researcher. So that type of question could be asked through this mailing questionnaire method. So this method is best for sensitive question. So, but this method is also having certain disadvantages. Let us see what are the disadvantages. Cannot be used by illiterates. So this method cannot be used by illiterate person. This method can be used only by the literate person, educated person, those who can read and write and those who can understand. So the next one is long response time. Let us see there is another disadvantage, that this gives more time to the people, and long response rate, long response time is there under this method. Reaction cannot be watched. So what happened face-to-face interview, the reaction of the respondent is being watched by the researcher or investigator, but here the reaction of the respondent cannot be watched. Another one, lack of accuracy. Let us see, here I told you there are certain questions which could not be understood by the respondent or informant. Informant could not understand the question, and the chances are there he cannot complete the format, and he can, let us say, send the answer, send the informants, send the format of questionnaire without completing, or incomplete information could be sent, or there may be the chances that a respondent or informant could not send the format of the question, and that is why this is the demerit also. So next one, we'll discuss telephone interview. In a telephone interview, the investigator asks question over the telephone. Let us say this investigator having the format of question, and they are having the telephone number or the mobile number of the respondent, and they just are asking, they used to ask the time, that what time are you free. If the respondent, they said that I'm free at this time, then the same time they will ask the question, or they will take the time from the respondent, and that investigator will call to the respondent, and they will ask the question over the telephone, and they will accept the answer. So sometimes, let us say, there are some question which is not clear to the respondent, that could be clarified by the investigator. So here I have already written telephone interview. In a telephone interview, the investigator asks questions over the telephone. This method allows the researcher to assist the respondent by clarifying the question. So let us see, doubtful question can be clarified by the researcher, by the investigator. So this method is also having some merits and demerits. Let us see advantages and disadvantages. Let us see what are the advantages of this method. So relatively low cost. This method is relatively low cost in comparison to personal interview method. Relatively high response rate. So people, they used to respond over the telephone. So this is the high response rate is there. Relatively less influence on respondent. So this enumerator or investigator or researcher, they cannot influence over the telephone to the respondent. So we can say relatively less influence on respondents are there. Next one, this disadvantages. Let us see the one of the most important disadvantages that limited use. This method is limited use. This method cannot be used at large. This method cannot be widely used. So there is a limited use of this method. Reaction cannot be watched. So this is the method through which reaction cannot be watched. Possibility of influencing respondents. So sometimes there is the possibility that the researcher or enumerator or investigator can make influence to the respondent. So this method is having we can say advantages and disadvantages. So we have seen three methods. First one is personal interview, second one is mailing questionnaire method, and third one is telephonic interview. So I think this mode of data collection, mode of the primary data collection is clear to all of you. Okay, thank you.